Happy Monday, Prom Sports World, and welcome back to another edition of the crossover presented by Prime Sports World. Today, we're going to be focused on the Western Conference. If you missed our Eastern Conference show, that was on Friday. It is on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, so go check that out. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point. TJ Hopkins joining us, the frustrated Mr. TJ Hopkins, mind you, this evening. We're going to be breaking down the Western Conference. If you're looking for consistent content on Facebook, Prime Sports World is a pretty good place to be. Go live about 4 or 5 times a week, bringing the most up-to-date content, including an NFL show tomorrow. We're going to break down the Calvin Ridley stuff, and we're going to talk about winners and losers at the most recent combine, including Mr. Jordan Davis, who is a freak of nature. Yeah. Also, want to thank our friends over there, Rouge Bear, sponsoring us here at Prime Sports World. If you let your presence be felt, drop a link to their website and our Facebook page, along with the NBA Supreme Facebook page as well. And before we get into the NBA stuff, so I don't know if a lot of people know this about me, but for one point, I lived in Panama City, Florida, and I lived there for 2.5 years. I lived there right while Hurricane Michael was going on. They are after dealing with Hurricane Michael, they are now dealing with raging wildfires. If I was still living at the apartment that I was in when I lived in Panama City, I would have to be evacuated right now.
Oh wow!
Like they're just dealing with all sorts of stuff. So my thoughts goes out to everybody in the Panhandle, everybody in Panama City. Hopefully you guys get through this. It's a tough community and tough area. They're tough people. They'll get through, but it's just one thing after another that they should have to deal with. Just want to get that off my chest, right?
No, respect for that. Respect for that, because it's a lot. It's a lot going on in the world right now. It's a lot going on in the world, and that's the last thing we need.
Yeah, true. So let's get into it. Western Conference, TJ, what's your take on the Western Conference before we get into individual storylines?
I think with the Western Conference, especially with the West, like the top, it's definitely top heavy. Right? I think seeds. I think the cutoff is. I would probably put the cutoff at like Denver, maybe Dallas. So like wherever.
So Dallas
Like
is
a
5, Denver 6.
Yeah, like that would probably be the cutoff. Especially the top three, like Phoenix, Golden State, and Memphis. Like I think the three of those teams have put such a gap between themselves and 4, 5, and 6 that if they were to ever meet in the playoffs down the line, like a second round matchup, it wouldn't be close. Like if and that's including Memphis with how young they are. If Memphis was to match up with like Denver or Dallas in the second round, right? I think Memphis would be so much more talented than those two teams, and that's with
I don't know, but
Denver.
I think they
No,
get
like that's with Denver getting Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. back because they've missed so much time that their conditioning is not going to allow them to be able to compete at the level that we're used to them competing at, especially Jamal Murray.
I 100% agree with you on that. Yeah, my take on the Western Conference, I kind of agree with you that it is kind of really spread out. Like there's really obvious tiers when it comes to teams in the Western Conference. Like we got first top 3 seeds. You got 4, 5, 6. I think it's another tier. Then it's like 7, 8, and then 9, 10 is another tier. And then you have Portland and San Antonio against Sacramento. The bottom tier is Oklahoma City and Rockets.
Right.
It's just we'll see. And first story we want to talk about is feel like I'm down a broken record here. We're talking about the Los Angeles Lakers still struggling. 3-7 in the last 10 games, including dropping 4 straight before beating the Warriors on Saturday, which required a Herculean effort from LeBron James, 56 points in that game. They have a negative 2.1 point differential. LeBron right now is playing nearly 38 minutes a night. Westbrook has scored one game where he scored over 20 points in January. Anthony Davis is still out. His timetable seems a little bit murky about him when he's actually going to be returning to the team. When I watch the Los Angeles Lakers play in the half court, there is they don't get anything. Like it's literally a grind because it's not just Westbrook. Like their roster just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And
Wait. What'd you just say? What'd you
I
say?
said it's not just Westbrook,
Okay, I heard
but
you. I just want you to repeat that.
yeah, it's not just Westbrook, but their offense is like in the half court. They're fine when they're in transition, like they look good
Yes.
in transition. But when they're in the half court, they get nothing. Everything is a grind. Everything, every shot, every possession, every basket. Like, it's brutal to watch.
Yeah, somebody is like, why do they keep putting the Lakers and the Knicks on national TV? And
Charles Barkley.
yeah, like it's gotten to the point where Charles Barkley wouldn't even say the Laker name, right? Like he's not even saying the name, and I get it. I get like like the simple fact that they keep putting the Lakers on national TV is because it's the Lakers, right? It's the Lakers. It is what it is. But I think like there should be a rule. Like forget the whole every team should get at least like some kind of prime time game. Like if you are just good block, if you are just unbearable to watch, like I don't care that the Lakers have LeBron James. I could care less. I really don't.
I mean, when they're getting
Be,
blown out by 30 points, the Pelicans, like they shouldn't be on TV. Like their offense, man. I can't even express, man. Like when they're in the half court, man, it's literally like watching paint dry.
it's tough.
There's nothing
It's tough.
interesting happening. Like there's no a lot of basketball. Like players are just standing around waiting for LeBron
It's,
or Westbrook to make something happen.
and I forgot who they were. I think was it the who were they playing the other night? Reggie Miller had the call, and I forgot who they were
It might have
playing.
been the Pelicans.
Yeah. It was New Orleans, right? The game's out of hand. LeBron is still like he's like playing to the point where it's like, dude, why are you even in the game? You're down 30. You're not gonna come back in 8.5 minutes. It's just not gonna happen. And Reggie Miller's like, Laker fans cannot point the finger at LeBron James. He's the one. He's averaging 20, whatever. I'm like, yeah, you can. You can absolutely blame LeBron James, right?
I mean, their struggles this season is really surprising.
No.
I mean,
Like I'm not saying there are struggles. I'm just saying like as far as like sending a message. If LeBron is not hustling for a loose ball, if LeBron's not rebounding, if LeBron is not playing defense, you're still riding him as the best player on your team. He go like the team goes as he goes, correct? So
100%.
if my the face of my team isn't doing what he's supposed to do, right? And in film sessions, you want to call me out? Like if I'm like a THT or a Stanley Johnson, you want to call me out for not boxing out? You want to call me out for not rebounding? I could easily do that to you. Body language goes a long way. Like I've seen plays where Malik Monk does some crazy athleticism, like that steal he had on the lob, where he just literally like, caught it. The Laker bench reacted like, "Whoa, good job, nice play." Like, what is that? What is that? Like,
Well, in my honest opinion, this is not a group that enjoys playing with. Like everything is a struggle for them on offense. This is not a team when you watch them play. It's like, yeah, these guys like playing against each other. Like they clearly do not. It's like
and at
none
the
of the
start, and at the start of the season, some Laker fans were probably optimistic. Others were already placing the blame on Westbrook. Like, didn't even play a game together. They're like, they're gonna come up short, and it's gonna be Westbrook's fault. Like, how? That means like you come in with a predetermined notion that you don't like you don't like the guy, you don't like Westbrook, right? And you were like, if the Lakers was gonna come up short, you already know two things. Well, three things. It's gonna be his fault, and I can't point the finger at LeBron James and Anthony Davis. When in actuality, the one guy who you should be pointing the finger at is not even playing right now, and he seems to be out of the lineup more than he is in the lineup. How the hell am I? How the hell am I supposed street clothes for a reason? How the hell am I supposed to say Anthony Davis? All right, the mantle is yours when you can't even stay there for me. I shouldn't have to ride LeBron James 38 minutes a game at this stage in his career. I shouldn't have to do that.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir. Let's not pretend like Russell Westbrook hasn't been particularly good this season. Like he just doesn't really like he's been fine, but he doesn't really fit on this. Like the way his play style doesn't really fit next to LeBron.
Because like he likes to get out and go. He likes to get out and go, and LeBron's a guy who likes to dictate the pace of his team, which those two styles don't fit. Like if you're Westbrook does most of his damage when like off rebound, we out of here, we
Yeah,
gone, run. Like we got to go, we got to. And like I've seen moments like you said in the fast break, they're off like they look great
yeah, they do.
when they
But when
like because
when this bogs down is where this kind of starts to fall apart. Like they had aging veterans that like Dwight Howard is a fine. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, but
he is.
his game at this point is basically just rebounding the basketball. Like he literally has no other purpose being on the floor right now. Like he doesn't do anything else. Like
And
he doesn't
bro, he's not even clip. He'd be lucky to clip 10 minutes a game.
like
Like
he looks like washed. Like straight up.
he'd be lucky to clip 10 minutes a game. And like again, like when it's Westbrook or even LeBron on the break, and he's out running with a young, notice the key word in this, young Stanley Johnson, a young Malik Monk. Then it's like, all right, we got something here. But when you got, like you said, when you gotta walk the ball up the court, run a set, when that only benefits like two out of the like maybe three out of the five guys. So I'm saying two right now.
The only two guys that benefit from that play style is Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James.
And LeBron, and I'm saying two right now because Anthony Davis ain't there, right? Like Anthony Davis would be perfect in this because if you need that low post stretch so you can dump the ball to him, and he can go to work on the block. Maybe I don't know because I've seen games where Anthony Davis looks engaged.
And Anthony Davis seems checked out. Like when he's not like he just doesn't seem like a guy who's in a good place. Like he just doesn't seem to be enjoying playing even when he's on the floor. Like the dude should be the best player on the team and really should be,
By
dominating
far.
the game. And
By
like
far.
he's not doing that.
Like we say this all the time, like because he always gets compared to Giannis. You cannot sit here and tell me Giannis is more skilled than Anthony Davis.
No, he's not. He
Giannis just wants it more. Giannis wants it more. Like Anthony Davis is a part of the AAU generation in America that has literally had everything catered and handed to them. Right? All right, you don't want to practice today? Okay. Just get some shots up. That's all. Work on ball handling. You ain't got to run. All right? Everybody else gets punished for their shortcomings, but I'm just going to, I'm going to let it fly because I know what else you can give me. Right? Blaming Westbrook, pointing the finger at Frank Vogel, where it's 65 games, 66 included tonight because they're playing.
I just love how a report came out this week where it was like, oh, they're going to keep Frank Vogel to the end of the season. Like, duh. Like, what else were they going to do? They were going to fire. Who was even there? Is it the guy who coached the Knicks? David Fizdale is the top assistant, right?
Fizz is the top assistant, yes.
I just don't think you're going to fire Frank Vogel. Like, and on the Westbrook front, like his numbers are down across the board. Like he's scoring. He hasn't scored this few number of points
since like his second year in the league, right?
His second year in the season. His 3-point percentage is as low as it's been. He was a Rocket.
I just don't like the narrative.
Like his percentages are awful right
now. Like I just don't like this narrative that has been
7% free throw line.
I just don't like this narrative that's been like is he playing bad? Yes. But is he the reason OKC came up short? No. Is he the reason they came up short in Houston? No. Is he the reason they came up short in DC? Like they point up, he's been on. This is his fourth team in 4 years. Oh, okay. This is Harden's fourth team in 3 years.
3 years. Yeah.
Like, what are you saying?
Yeah, third team.
This is Harden's third team in 3. Like, Harden has come up short in playoff performances. It's not just Russ. Forget the fact that him coming up short in OKC. He's the only reason they were there in the first place.
Yeah, and I mean, the Wizards team without him on that Wizards team, they're not a playoff team last year.
They're not a playoff team.
Yeah, they needed Russell Westbrook, but his athleticism is slowly starting to evaporate. Where he doesn't have the same burst. Like the league is catching up with because he's getting older. So the league now is catching up to his athleticism and passing. And when this Laker team is relying on like Austin Reeves to provide us a scoring punch off their bench, it's not a good sign. Like, it's just not. Like, Oscar
and
is a fine basketball player, but if
and
have it be like, oh, this guy's gonna be the savior of our season, like, it just doesn't make any
I
sense.
think I think that shoulder injury, well, shoulder injuries, because I think he had injuries to both of them. Like I think the severity of those injuries weren't really told to like the full extent. Like, cause you remember like when Russ was like at his like peak, his mid range pull up was like one of the best in the league. Like it was basically unstoppable. Like if Russell Westbrook was coming at you full speed and decided to raise up from the free throw line and pull up for that free throw line jumper, that was a good, like, that was automatically 2 points.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe I mean that's why all of his percentages across the board have dipped. Then
And I have no idea like how serious those shoulder injuries were to him because he stopped focusing. It's like it's almost like he stopped focusing on shooting. I'm not saying he wasn't working on it, but it's almost like he stopped prioritizing him shooting versus him prioritizing him making it through the grit and grind of an 82 game season. Because he had a bit of an injury history in his younger days too, as most athletic young athletic point guards do. Right,
yeah,
like
so,
so
I
it's
mean,
almost like he shifted priorities.
and I honestly I just don't think there's a like any fairy dust. This is not straight up not a good like they're gonna probably make the play in by kind of by default, even though the Pelicans are playing better, and we'll get to them in a little bit here. But like this is straight up not a team that's hosting any kind of Larry O'Brien trophy. All said and done, they're going to be a one if
But
they even get out of
but
the play.
but you know what Laker fans are gonna say? It's not LeBron's fault. He did what he look what he averaged. He did this. He did that. Nah, nah. You want all the glory?
I personally would have a hard time putting LeBron under the wood in the woodshed because
Oh no,
the
hey, no,
dude.
you want the glory and adulation. Accept the criticism that come with it. You can't have one and not the other. You can't give this man all the praise when they win, and then none of the blame when they come up short.
I mean, I gotta be honest with you, LeBron looks like a guy who's not having a good time. Like I wouldn't be shocked. I know he's not going to, but if he just retired and told Ronnie was ready to play in the NBA, like he's just like I'm gonna go do whatever for 2 years and then I'll come back. I can't I literally can't do this anymore. Like I can't like be a Laker.
And
I have to I need to step away. Like
now like they got a report that excuse me, that Phil Jackson has been talking to Jeannie Buss. And I'm
yeah, I
like,
saw
hey,
that.
I'm like, don't y'all do it. Do not do it. Like, if you think the game has left Russell Westbrook behind, what do you think the game has done to the triangle?
I,
Like, I'm so serious.
so what do the Lakers do? Any remedy? Anything they can do? Or they just stay?
No, like they are what they are, right? Like we've come to this conclusion. They are what they are. They're not getting any better. Like they'd be lucky to make the play in, right? And
If the play was not a thing, their season would be touched already.
right, yeah, if the play in was not a thing.
Like if the play didn't exist, their season would be over. Like the chances of catching the Clippers, who have a 6 game lead on them, with what 10, 15 games left, their
Well,
season would be over.
I also saw some that like it was like their chances of moving up from 7 to 8 is 1%. No,
Yeah,
8 to 7 is 1%. It's like
like
damn.
yeah, without the play in tournament, their season would be over. So thank God, I guess, for COVID for the Los Angeles Lakers, and thank God for COVID for their other ring too. So
Oh, and you already know how I feel about that. If the season doesn't get shut down for 4 months to allow LeBron and AD to get healthy and heal, they don't win.
I,
They probably don't even make it out of the second round.
I probably agree with you on that. Moving on from one struggling team in the West to another struggling team in the West, Golden State Warriors. 2-8 their past 10 games, including losing 4 straight. Steph Curry, his percentages basically across the board are kind of down this season. Klay Thompson's been pretty decent. He came back 17 points, 41% field goal, 37% three. They're like 500 though since Klay Thompson rejoined this team. Draymond Green hasn't played in a game since January. I guess Wade's reported that he's shooting for a mid-March return in like 10 days from now. What's going on with the Warriors? Like they're two, like they just have struggled. They haven't looked in sync in the last basically in 10 games, basically since the All-Star break even before then.
I don't know. Like, they get a pass, though, a bit of a pass, because they're the Warriors. And as quickly as they can go 2-8 in 10 games, they can go 8-2, 9-1, or 7-3, or 10
Well,
and 0.
their tear before that was 1, 5, 6, 7, 9. They won 10 games in a row before they're on this most recent stretch. They're 2-8, and I mean they've lost to some good teams. They lost to a Jazz team, playoff team, Clipper team that's a playoff team. The Nuggets, they're a playoff team. The Mavericks, playoff team. They played the Mavericks twice and lost twice. They lost to the Timberwolves. And then they lost to LeBron and his effort.
56
They've
points.
lost
Yeah.
some good. They've lost some good basketball teams. They've beaten the teams they're supposed to beat. They beat the Trailblazers by like 40 points. They beat the Lakers the first time they played them a couple weeks ago. So I mean, these things kind of tend to happen sometimes.
Well, them ingratiating Klay Thompson back into back into the starting lineup like they did, like he was never there, like he never left, means taking away minutes from guys who were very key contributors while he was out. More minutes for Klay Thompson means less minutes for a Jordan Poole, less minutes for a Gary Payton II, less minutes for a Juan Toscano Anderson, who are all key contributors in his absence.
The same
Where
thing, Jonathan Kuminga too. I mean, less
say,
minutes for him. Moses Moody,
where
who's playing more now than he was then. But
yeah, well, and I'm not really, and I'm not gonna, I'm not sitting here telling Steve Kerr how to coach because, like, who fucking am I to do that? But what I would have did was, all right, Klay, you're back, but I'm gonna keep you I'm gonna keep you coming off the bench for now. Like it's too like it's not fair for me to ask you to come in when you've missed 2.5 years and throw you into the starting lineup and basically ask you to do the things that you were doing prior to your injuries.
and he's playing like a absurd amount of minutes. Like for a guy who's coming off the injuries that he's coming off of, like he's playing. He's playing. He's averaging almost 30 minutes a game, plus 10. He's basically averaging 26 minutes a game. Got back. He played in 19 games so far this season. It
Like,
doesn't look like he's playing back to back. So I mean, that could be another thing. Because he's not playing back to backs, nobody can really get into rhythm like those other guys that are. It would be all of a sudden shifted to the starting lineup because you don't really know which role's going to be on game to game, scenario to scenario.
exactly. So like
Yeah,
I mean like more credit to the Jordan Pools and the guys I just mentioned for always staying ready for them, like, and the coaching staff for getting them ready to be in that situation. But I would have kept the starting lineup whatever it was prior to Klay, like while Klay was out, because everybody had found a role and they were comfortable in that role. I just would ingratiate Klay Thompson back in that way, and then they gotta worry about Wiseman. He's close to coming back too,
I,
unless they just plan on keeping him out throughout the whole. You did
I,
just
I
hey,
so I
bro.
read a report when I was building this draft early in the session that they don't expect him to be part of their playoff the rotation at all.
All right, so that's a good thing, right? If keep him out all the way, and then 2022 season start fresh from there, right? Draymond Green, this is like the best thing that's like him. Not him being hurt is the best thing, but him being out is really shining the light on just how important he is
Yeah, I was just about to bring up
to the
that point.
Golden State
As
Warriors.
you know, I'm not exactly the
You
greatest.
are not a big
I'm
Draymond.
not exactly the
you
biggest Draymond Green supporter over the course of my life, but like him being
no.
out really proves how valuable he is to the team as a defensive player. He runs their offense, so like if they can get him into good sets, Steph Curry.
That,
So much of that burden doesn't have to sit on Steph Curry's shoulders.
like yeah, Draymond has shown that because like for you, like all we've heard over the course of his career, basically since he's gotten to Golden State is, and especially when they started winning, oh, he's only good because he plays for the Warriors. He's only good because he's passing the ball to Steph and Clay. Yeah, yeah, woo, woo. All right, take him out. Like over the course of his career, take him out of the stars, like take him away from the Golden State Warriors. I guarantee you, the Warriors' record with him is significantly better than his record than their record without him. Not just this year. I'm just saying over the course of Draymond Green's career as a Golden State Warrior. Look
Oh,
at their
I
record.
mean, they did have a season where they only lost 10 games, so or 9 games. So yeah,
Okay,
I
okay,
imagine,
but
I
like, but that's
imagine, I
one. But
imagine,
that's one.
I
That's
imagine.
one.
Yeah, but that's still, I
That's
imagine.
one
I think
season.
that goes without saying.
So Drake, and I don't know like his contract situation. Like I really don't. I don't know if he was like
Draymond
in
Green, I
this.
think, has 2 years left on his left. Because we talked about this when Draymond Green was
Yeah,
because he
because
works for
I'm like I
TNT
couldn't
now.
remember. Yeah, I couldn't remember if he was like due for an extension or they were extension talks and they were talking about moving on from him. Yeah, yeah, woo woo. If I'm
So
Draymond,
he's not an unrestricted free agent until 2024.
okay,
So he's
so
under
what?
contract. He's under contract
So
after.
if they decide to extend him, it's like that'll probably be uh, the last two rounds. Like he probably gets one more contract from the Golden State Warriors. That's if he decides to stay and they decide to keep him. Because at some point in time, you got those young dudes on the team like a Kuminga and a Wiseman, right? At some point in time, you got to see what you got in those guys. You can't use
And Draymond Green's going to be 34 when his contract expires.
right. So like at some point in time, you got to see what you got in those two dudes, especially Wiseman. Like he's a second overall pick. He hasn't played a lot. Well, yeah, he hasn't played at all this season. Same thing with Kuminga. Like you got to see what you got in these two guys. Like these were lottery picks for you. So I think the Warriors they're gonna be fine. Like you do not want to see these guys in 7 games. You
No,
just don't.
no, definitely not. But I think defensively they haven't been as good this as they have been in past years. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Draymond Green's been out. Because his value defensively is without saying. I mean, the guy was the front runner for defensive player of the year before he started missing all the time.
And his IQ, like, and his IQ is second to none.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
they don't. If they have Draymond Green, they don't lose that Laker game. They don't lose that game where Doncic went nuts with the Mavericks.
oh God, no.
They don't lose
They
this
don't
game
lose
to the
that.
Nuggets.
The one with Jokic was backing
Yeah,
down. He just kicked it out to was it Morris for the game winning three,
yeah.
and
Like they might still lose this Jazz game because the game was in Utah and they got beat by a lot. So they may still lose this game, but they don't lose to the Knicks by 2. Like Draymond Green's value will reset what's going on with the process. He just has to get back
as
on the floor. And they're talking about March 14th potential return date. That could not come soon enough.
no, that's another week. And again, his IQ is just so. No one talks about Draymond's IQ. Like Draymond, I literally think Draymond could play on any team he wants because of his IQ. His IQ allows him to do that. And if he didn't have a deal with Turner, I would not be surprised wholeheartedly. And he still could because he's probably going to be what? What would you say? 36 by the time he retires.
I mean, I think
30
the argument. I think he may hang him up after his contract. That's just
after his contract.
my feeling on it. Because why would you sign a deal with Turner? Like I guess money, money.
I mean,
But
it's a part time deal. And
yeah,
I wholeheartedly expect because Charles Barkley has talked about his TV mortality,
yeah.
right? Like
You're only gonna do this for 2 more years.
Charles
Like that.
Barkley is closer to the end of his broadcasting career than he is the middle, and that's just not any normal size role to fill. Like that's Charles Barkley. More
I mean,
people know
Charles Barkley make the argument he's a Hall of Fame broadcaster.
broadcaster. Like more people know Charles Barkley for his broadcasting now than they do
Yeah.
for him than they do for his playing. And that's a huge and if you ask Draymond to fill that role, I think he's more than capable of doing it. But
Oh, he does. He does like say whatever comes to his mind.
I also wouldn't be surprised to see him like on somebody's coaching staff. Like if he chose to do that.
Yeah,
Wouldn't be
I agree
surprised
with
at that
you
at
on
all.
that. I think the Warriors are going to be okay. I think they're just in a rough patch here, and they'll bounce back. It'll be fine.
Like
Moving on from two teams struggling to another team that's sort of surging. Got the New Orleans Pelicans. 5-5 in the last 10 games, including 4 straight wins before losing in overtime yesterday. Those victories include Suns, Jazz, Lakers, Kings. CJ McCollum has been awesome since they traded for him. 25 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, 51% from the field, 38 from three. And Brandon Ingram, 22 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, 50% from the field, 27 from three in the last 10 games. If you haven't seen his like half court hook shot that the buzzer, I think yesterday, it is
Yeah,
really a cool shot to check out. And Zion Williamson cleared to participate in basketball activities. Now back with the team. Um, basketball activities. I don't know exactly what that means, but it's got to be a better sign than when he was in Portland, not even reaching out to call him after they traded for him. So what do you think about the Pelicans right now? I mean, they're playing better since they got CJ McCollum. CJ McCollum's been playing out of his mind.
yeah. CJ McCollum has been playing out of his mind. um, it's still obviously like, it's still a work in progress with them with New Orleans, and the Bulls just lost their fourth straight. Um, it's still a work in progress. It's still a team full of potential. Like you pick this guy and Zion to be your number one seed. I mean, like the face of your franchise, number one overall pick, and he's missed 60 whatever percent of the games he's played. Like he's missed like 60 whatever percent of the games he available. Like for those, he just hasn't been there. Reports come out, like you said, he goes to Portland. He's rehabbing away from the team. Away from the team. Doesn't trust David Griffiths. Then another report comes out that they were trying to move up and make moves to get not just they already had the first overall pick. They were trying to get the number 2 overall pick and pair Zion and Ja Morant together. Where Memphis is like, I'm not doing that. Like what? Like what do you have that I potentially want to make me move off of the number 2 pick? Unless Brandon Ingram is a part of that deal, we ain't talking. Plain and simple. I think I don't think it's the players. I 100% think it's the brass and the ownership, because the ownership has clearly shown that the Pelicans are not their main priority. Right? They
Oh no,
they they treat the organization like the redheaded stepchild. And if
and they
you
treated the Jerry Reinsdorf the way he treats the White Sox and Bulls.
and if you're gonna do that, it would be better for everyone if you either sold the team or literally set or create a team within the team and be like, hey, you focus on the Saints, you focus on the Pelicans. And I'm saying this to about the Benson family. Like, one or two things has to happen. You either do it you either sell the team outright and just focus on the Saints, because that's clearly all you care about, or you hire those who's like, hey, you focus on the Saints, you focus on the Pelicans, because right now you're the cheapest franchise, you're in the worst NBA market, and this is the first time we're talking about your actual basketball versus this is the first time we talk about your actual basketball play in the last 2 years, basically since Zion got there, because he ain't giving us much to talk about, and you're 500 in the last 10 games, and that's what we're talking about. That's like, don't get me wrong, impressive victories. Phoenix, Utah, and yeah, those two. The other two, Lakers and the Kings, those really could have went either way. They just happened to go your way.
Well, the Lakers, they beat them down, and they beat the Kings down. I mean, they've actually beaten the Jazz they beat all of these teams pretty handily, actually. I mean, they beat the Suns by 15, they beat the Lakers by 30, the Kings by 30, so Jazz by 30.
And
then they lost to the Nuggets because Jokic.
Because
Bad
you gave, and it took a 46-point triple double for Denver to get over the hump against you, because you basically gave Denver all they could handle, and it took 46 point triple double and OT to beat you. So,
and in order for the Mavericks to beat the Pelicans, they had Luka Doncic had to put up 49.
49, bro.
Like, yeah, like,
Like it's the one thing I can say is I'm glad they're showing some fight. I'm glad they're not, they're not getting pushed over. I guess it's still because like they haven't out. Like, are they in the play-in tournament? Are they?
yeah, they're the 8th seed right now. They just got 4.
So you have a shot. At the end of the day, that's all you want. Like, I mean, I get it. You're in the play-in. That's one game, and your reward for that is either playing the Warriors, the Grizzlies, or the Phoenix Suns, and you're gonna go home in 5 games or 4 games anyway.
Probably true. But especially, it's going to be the Phoenix Suns. They have I would be shocked we're going to get to them briefly here too as well, but I would be borderline shocked if the Suns dropped out of.
I would too, whole time. Like I don't see that. I don't
If,
see them like dropping that far down.
as
So,
for the Pelicans, I'm actually
yes.
really excited the fact that they're playing better. Brandon Ingram looks happy. CJ McCollum has been a godsend. He's come in and been exactly what this team was looking for when they signed Devontae Graham. When they had Drew Holiday on the team, like they were looking for a lead guard to take them, basically close out games for them. And they finally got the guy they needed, and if they can get Zion Williamson back at all this season, even if he's on a tight minimum restriction, 20 minutes a night, that would be a step forward for this franchise.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I mean, also,
Well,
just not to throw shade on another franchise here, but Sacramento. I'm glad you traded away Tyrese Halliburton. Nice.
again, like, if New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
It's a bad look when the guy that you picked to be your franchise doesn't trust you. Doesn't trust you, right? The one thing he asked you to do, keep the point guard I like to play with. He asked you to keep Lonzo Ball and you literally could have matched any deal that any team offered to Lonzo Ball, and you couldn't even do that. So, what am I supposed to do in that situation? I asked you for one thing.
Well, I think a lot of this started. I remember that story I keep telling you about where Carly Towns went to David Griffin's house and like David Griffin like played the piano for him. Yeah, apparently that didn't go well. with Zion
Yeah,
Williamson.
like that was. Yeah, that was kind of creepy.
Yeah, like he played the piano for him. Like when I hear that story, yeah, apparently that didn't go over well. Like I'm like, okay, yeah. Uh, I mean, he's Zion Williamson's 18 years old. The last thing he wants to do is go to somebody's house and have a 50-year-old man play the piano for him.
Like, yeah, I don't want that.
I'm 33. If I went to somebody's house and they started playing the piano for me, I would probably go home.
I would move out, like not move out. I would like run away and never look
Yeah,
back.
I'd find something would have to come up right away. I'd have to leave. So let's get into something, nothing, everything for the Western Conference. The first one is about the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns 3-2 since the All-Star break without Chris Paul, and one of those victories was a buzzer beater against the New York Knicks, and their other victory was a victory against the Blazers, who are the Blazers. And they do not win that game if Julius Randle doesn't have a meltdown and basically throw that game for the Knicks. So they basically would have one win since the All-Star break if it wasn't for that Cam Johnson heroics. Something, nothing, everything for the Suns.
It's something when you consider that Chris Paul is out and Devin Booker is out. Yeah, Devin Booker's out, and because I was watching that game against the Knicks, and I'm like, yo, how are the Knicks hanging in with the Suns right now? And I'm like, wait. I don't see Devin Booker. That's when I asked in the group, I'm like, yo, is Devin Booker hurt? Or is he in protocol? Like, he like COVID. I'm like, oh, okay. It's COVID protocols. That makes a lot of sense. And it was a 10-point game. It got to a point where the Knicks had a double-digit lead. And, Julius Randle, even if he didn't get a tech for pushing Cam Johnson, he got it like he was gonna get a tech for putting his hands on the ref, inadvertently or not, and that was still
And
tech number 2.
Julius Randle had like a literal meltdown. Like he
Like,
literally was, he just melted down in the middle of the arena.
I mean, like, it's something because, like, luckily for them, they have a big enough lead to the point where they don't really have to worry about one of the two teams, the Warriors or the Grizzlies, overlapping them for the number 1 seed. And those guys aren't really gonna miss any significant time, especially Devin Booker. All right, like Devin Booker should be back in like a week. Chris Paul, on the other hand, is definitely more concerning because the playoffs, that's when you really want Chris Paul. My big concern that is everything for the Phoenix Suns is the play of DeAndre Ayton. You can't let Mitchell Robinson, who's a fine center, right? Fine center. Nothing against Mitchell Robinson. You can't get outworked on the glass by Mitchell Robinson.
Not to mention Mr. Robinson, like
He's a what? Yeah. Oh yeah. Like
he hasn't really filled out. Like DeAndre Ayton, like is huge compared to him.
Ginormous, and you can't you can't let that happen. Like he can't get 15 boards and you only have like 3. Like he held you to 8 and 3, bro, on national TV, 8 and 3, and you want your, and keep in mind, me and Matt James talk about this in the group chat. You want your bread. You want max money. You want max money. I'm supposed to give you max money for 8 and 3?
Yeah, no.
So
That's I mean that's why I've always the reason I don't want to pay him because they can find somebody 75% of what he does, 75%.
Now the who did they play the other
I played the Bucks last Sunday. Then let's see who else they did. Played the Jazz.
I didn't expect I didn't expect them to beat Milwaukee, especially without their 2 best players.
And Cam Johnson played.
And Cam and it got announced like 10 minutes before the game, like in studio, that Cam Johnson wasn't gonna play. And lo and behold, I did not know that the NBA could call fouls on Giannis Antetokounmpo to the point where he would foul out. That game against the Bulls, man. So you can foul him out. Okay. Anyway.
You're not bitter at all, right?
No, not even a little bit. Like the game DeAndre Ayton had against the Bucks, 30. I still want him to grab double-digit rebounds, because if Giannis played 31 minutes, but the bulk of that had to be, spaced out. Like the guy was in foul trouble. You still couldn't crack double-digit rebounds, bro.
I mean when Serge Ibaka's giving it business. I mean Serge Ibaka had 10 rebounds. He played like half the amount of minutes.
He played 22 minutes and got 14 to 10. Bobby Portis has 6. And he was like 2 for 8 from the field. Like damn, Bob, you just like to hit shots against the Bulls, huh, bro? That's what that is, Bobby. That's what that is, Bobby Portis. Okay, it is what it is.
But yeah, this is my opinion. It's certainly something.
It's something.
It's something, but it's not like it's closer to nothing than it is everything. Moving on from there, Utah, Dallas, and Denver are all 8 and 2 in their last 10 games. Something, nothing, everything.
Oh, that's for sure something. That is definitely something. Because you said Utah, Dallas, and Denver?
Yeah, 8-2 in the last 10 games. All 3.
The teams you just said, 4, 5, and 6. Right? That's in that order. Utah, Dallas, Denver, 4, 5, and 6. And if I'm Denver, I'm 8 and 2 in my last 10, and I'm like, looking at the calendar. Oh yeah, Murray coming back at this point. Porter Jr. coming back at this point, and I'm 8 and 2 right now. And I get it. I know what I said earlier. Jamal Murray is not going to be the player that we expect him to be, but he's there. Now you got to worry about him. Same thing with Porter Jr. He ain't going to be the player that he was prior to him getting hurt, but you still got to, now you got a plan for him. You got a game plan for these guys now. 100% or not, 80% of Jamal Murray is still a damn good player.
And it's certainly an upgrade over what they're doing at point guard right now. This is sure something. It's these two teams. The Utah was the number 1 team in the Western Conference last season. They play an interesting breed of basketball. They're the third highest point differential in the entire conference right now. Entire NBA actually. Yeah, this is for sure something. These three teams are surging at the right time. This is when you want to hit their stride. This is when you want to start playing good, really good basketball as you get closer to playoffs. And the Mavericks, they're like the best defensive team in the Western Conference right now. Which just seems crazy to me to talk about like Dallas is like the best defensive team in the Western. They might be the whole best NBA. No, the Cleveland Cavaliers are better, but not by much.
And if I'm Dallas, we talked about them at the start of the season because they just had like teams tend to take on the personality of their coaches. So Jason Kidd has always had a quote unquote like laissez-faire attitude about him, especially as a head coach. Not saying he's not a good coach, because Jason Kidd is actually a hell of a coach. Like we saw, he started the turnaround in Milwaukee. I don't think Milwaukee gets to where they are right now if Jason Kidd doesn't make the changes that he makes
I
in
mean,
Milwaukee.
Giannis credits him for a lot of his development as a player.
Giannis credits Jason Kidd for a lot of his development, and then he goes to Brooklyn
Brooklyn.
at the start, like right when they had just moved to Brooklyn and turned them into something respectable. Right? Then he had he had a couple scandals, had to get out of the coaching game for a while, and now he's back in. And Dallas got off to like a kind of a slow start. You know, we already know the issues between Luka and KP. They just rolled it out to the point where KP got traded away. Now
Speaking of that trade, Spencer Dinwiddie's been awesome.
Well, yeah. So that's a trade where it's a win-win on both cases. Like KP wasn't happy in Dallas. Dinwiddie wasn't happy in DC. Like Dinwiddie was not getting Dinwiddie was not getting along with teammates in DC, and they ain't like him.
No,
right? Bleach Report made it painfully clear that Spencer Dinwiddie did not like his teammates in Washington. And
they weren't watching the Super Bowl together. Like,
and speaking of teammates not liking each other, Utah, more and more reports are coming out. Gobert and Donovan Mitchell do not like each other. It is painfully it is clear that these two dudes do not like each other. The problem is, I'm pretty sure Gobert got a max contract.
Correct.
And did Mitchell also get a max contract?
Yeah, he's somewhere in his rookie deal. I don't remember the exact what he may have just signed an extension.
So, if you got teams outside of Denver where
Donovan Mitchell's locked up until 2026. He becomes unrestricted.
So that's the thing. These two dudes do not like each other unless it gets to a point where they just become unplayable. Like they can't. Like if I'm in the room, he got to be out. Then I wouldn't worry about it, and I hope they can put their differences aside long enough to play.
I mean, they continue to win games. As long as they keep winning is all here for all of this.
Winning is the ultimate goal. But here's the thing. What's the one thing we always talk about with Dallas? I mean, not Dallas, Utah.
Great in the regular season.
Great in the regular season. Great in the regular season, but until it's time to actually do some work in the playoffs, they come up short. It's something that these three teams are 8-2 in their last 10, and two of the some of the guys are some of these teams are getting guys back.
Yep. Final one. Karl-Anthony Towns named Western Conference Player of the Week. Something, nothing, everything. His numbers. This 28, 3, 9. Minnesota Timberwolves undefeated this last week in that stretch as Karl-Anthony Towns put up crazy.
It's something. It's definitely because you got to keep in mind all the guys that play like you say he's the Western Conference Player of the Month.
Week.
Oh, Player of the Week. Yeah, it's something. You already know how I feel about Karl-Anthony Towns. It's about it's about time. Show some kind of dog. Show some dogging, right? You're number one overall pick. You are too talented for folks to be talking about your drive of the game. It's something.
I definitely agree with you. It's for sure something. But yeah, kudos to Karl-Anthony Towns for having a good week. Final topic. Chasing history. The San Antonio Spurs are currently playing the Los Angeles Lakers right now. I'm not sure if that game's on national television or not. But Greg Popovich, one win away from tying Don Nelson for the most wins as a head coach. Popovich won 3-3-4. Nelson won 3-3-5. The Spurs' next 5 games: Lakers, Toronto, Utah, Indiana, Minnesota, all at home. When do you think Greg Popovich eclipses Nelson and passes him? And what do you think his long term legacy is going to be when it's all said and done for Greg Popovich? Um,
Say those
as,
games
as we
again.
as we try to celebrate, Greg Popovich's life here a little bit.
Say those games again.
So they all of these games are at home. So they're playing the Lakers literally right now.
Okay.
Toronto, Utah, Indiana, Minnesota.
Oh, he's passing in the next 2 games. I think they beat LA tonight, which ties
They're
him with
they're, they're
Grant.
beating them by 6. Right?
So I think he beat. I think they beat. I think they hold on and they beat because LeBron's not playing tonight.
Correct.
I think they beat LA tonight, so they tie, and then they play Toronto, and he eclipsed Don Nelson. What his legacy will be is like it's hard to say like he's the greatest coach of all time because like Don Nelson has the most like right now Don Nelson has the most wins in NBA history, and no one ever calls him the greatest coach of all time. Right?
Yeah, but he doesn't have the hard.
He does not have the hardware, but who's the one guy that's always like he's always called the greatest coach of all time? It's Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson's like, and then you got the old heads. Like I got an uncle who's in his 70s. Red Auerbach's the greatest coach of all time. I'm like, okay, like I'm not finna go down that rabbit hole with you right now on this subject. Not doing it. Greg Pop will be one of the greatest coaches of all time. Like if you make a coaching Mount Rushmore, his face better be on there somewhere.
I tend to agree with you on that. Yeah, I mean, Greg Popovich's legacy is just he's been he's basically been part of my entire basketball life. Like I don't there hasn't been a point there hasn't been a point in my life where I've been a fan of basketball and like haven't Greg Popovich hasn't been involved to some extent.
Like I grew up like from the moment I started paying attention to the NBA, right? The Spurs have always been somewhere in the picture. Right? From the like the finals they had against the Nets when they were the New Jersey Nets, when the Nets were like went to back-to-back finals and they just happened to run into the two best teams in the West in back-to-back years, and the Lakers and the Spurs. And it's his style of basketball that allows players. Ready for this name? Remember Malik Rose?
Yeah.
It allows like it's his style of play that allows guys like Malik Rose to find a home in the NBA and contribute to a championship team. Speedy Claxton, you remember Speedy Claxton? Guys like him, right? Steven Jackson, uh, like Greg Pop, and it's also his ability to adapt over 40 years of, or however long he's been coaching. The one thing you can say about the triangle and Phil Jackson is the game caught up to it.
And he never He never grew up. He never adapted. He never changed.
And he never adapted to it. So, go ahead.
Well, Greg Popovich, his sustained success is something I don't think we'll ever see
Hell no.
again. Like we're talking 19 years of winning 50 plus games every season from 1999 2000 all the way to 2017 2018, where they basically won 50 games every year basically 20 years. Like that kind of sustained success is never going to be done again.
No.
And his personality and the way he stands up for Black Lives Matter, women's rights, like the guy has just been everything that the league could have asked for in an advocate. Like he's just been awesome, and he like his great one-liners, like where he just I want some nasty.
Because he absolutely loathes and despises mid-game interviews.
Oh, yeah.
Like he just wants to focus on coaching the game, and he would only give more than one sentence answers to one guy, and it's the late great Craig Sager. Craig Sager was the only one who could get more than one word or one sentence out of Greg Popovich, and it's almost like it got to a point where it's like it's funny because it's like, all right, that's Pop, you know what you're gonna get. Like one reporter told the story how like she was so scared to ask him a question, and she was just trying to do her job. Right? And
Yeah.
she was like so scared to walk up and like, hey Pop, you gotta do like the mid quarter interview, like the after commercial interview. And like you said, 20 straight years of 50 or more wins. It ain't
Yeah.
getting topped. I'd be I'd be hella impressed if somebody manages to do five or come
I,
close to it.
I, I agree with you on that. And I mean, the other thing that's like so Greg Popovich, I think with Phil Jackson, you had Michael Jordan, you had Kobe Bryant. Like Greg Popovich never really. I no disrespect to Tim Duncan here, but like Tim Duncan isn't those guys in the stature of. And Greg Popovich achieved more with like less. Like he got those players like so much out of those players that you never could have imagined. Like sure they had Tim Duncan and he was obviously sort of the straw that stirred that drink,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really about the development of those role players. And
Yo,
like nobody thought
well,
that Tony Parker's going to be a Hall of Famer when they drafted him.
that was my next question. I'm like, ask yourself, like, do you think Tony Parker accomplishes anything of what he did? Like, does he accomplish a fraction of what he accomplished in the Spurs uniform if he doesn't play for them?
No, and I think you could the same thing about Manu Ginobili. Manu Ginobili, like Greg Popovich understood what Manu Ginobili was. He's like, I'm just going to let this guy play to his strengths. I'm not going to try to restrict him. And I mean, he ended up having a Hall. Greg Manu Ginobili's a Hall of Famer too, if he's not
Well,
already in.
like Manu could even if Manu never came over, like if Manu just stayed in Argentina or stayed overseas, his overseas career was enough to get him in. The stuff that Manu did in the NBA was literally the icing on the cake. That's literally it.
I mean, 4 rings. He was
Four rings, a
six man of the year one time.
couple gold medals with the Argentinian national team.
Yeah, so they won the gold in 2004. Then they won like whatever FIBA. They won 2008. They won the America Cup in 2001 and 2011.
See, like,
And he's
the,
got a bronze at the Summer Olympics in 2008.
so I know teams like the Spurs like to hire in house. So I'm very curious as to one, how long he gonna keep this going.
I think this is
Two,
it.
you think this is it?
Yeah.
This is it.
I mean,
Like this
what
season?
like once he yeah, I think for it. I mean,
I,
he's 73 years old by the time next season starts. He's 74 years old. Especially if he eclipses Don Nelson here, they're like this isn't a Spurs team that's going to win a championship next season.
no.
Like they're good. Like there's nothing left for him to prove or accomplish. Like I mean maybe he wants to continue coaching, but in my opinion, the passing Don Nelson have the most career wins of all time. I think that would be the icing on the cake for Greg Popovich. I think that's it.
I agree. Yeah, you know what? I think
I
I'm
mean,
like
they haven't made the playoffs in
what
4 years.
4 years? Is it four?
Yeah,
That's and when you're Greg Pop and you have that standard, like you have that standard about you, it's hard to top. You know, it's hard as a Spurs fan, especially. I can imagine them being
they
like,
haven't made the playoffs. This will be the third season. Playoffs.
this will be the third in a row that they've missed, and I can be hard pressed for them to be like, we're coming off basically 2 decades. Like there are some Spurs fans where all they know is winning. It's literally all they know. All they know is winning, deep playoff runs, couple finals appearances, and now where it's like, do we want to rebuild or do we want, like, you're stuck in purgatory? Do you want to rebuild or do you want to like try and be competitive? Because you can't do both. There isn't like you can't do both. You gotta find a direction and go in that direction. And the one thing about San Antonio, like when they were winning, like when they had the Duncan, Parker, Ginobili trio, it was kind of easy to lure some free agents in there who wanted to win. still missed. Like it was still kind of hard, but like the fact that you were winning 50 games, and I could promise you a deep playoff run. Like you could, some free agents could be sold on that. Now, not that hard. Like not that easy.
Yeah, I think this is it for Greg Popovich. I think this will be his last season, uh, and he'll be free to do what. Like he'll probably should be an analyst. I think he'd be an awesome analyst.
Oh God,
Uh,
no. I'm not saying he wouldn't be a good analyst. I just don't think no.
I would love it if they became like the Hubby Brown role, like him and Hubby
Yeah,
Brown call games together. It'd be so
oh
fun.
God, like him and Hubie Brown, like
Yeah,
nah.
come on,
I
man.
I think when Pop is all said and done, when he's done, I think he's earned that right to ride off into the sunset and just be completely left alone. Like be honored by the Spurs down the line. Like they do a ceremonial like coaching jersey raising for him, and he eats free in whatever San Antonio restaurant that he goes to.
Forever.
Hey, like forever, like Pop, wherever you eat at, hey, bro, it's on the house. Like,
But yeah,
what's it called?
Greg Popovich. Let me take a look at the final score of the game right now. So they're up by 2, halfway through the third quarter. My opinion is that I think they're going to lose tonight, and they'll beat Indianapolis and they'll beat Minnesota. That's when they'll get the record. Um, but we'll see.
Okay, I could also see one where it's like they lose tonight, beat Toronto, lose to Utah, and then they beat Indy.
Yeah, I can see that scenario too as well. Them beating Toronto, like Dejounte Murray has a great game against Toronto, and they beat Indiana. I think they should beat Indiana Pacers just by default, unless Tyrese Halliburton continues to play like he's like, man. I still can't believe the Sacramento Kings traded away Tyrese Halliburton. The dude since he got there in Indiana is averaging 20 and 11.
Yeah, he going. Yeah, he is. He's going. Yeah, he going crazy.
But yeah, but that's been our crossover edition for the Western Conference. We're coming back tomorrow doing some more NFL stuff. We're going to give her some winners and losers of the combine. And then we're going to continue our What's Next season, rolling into another episode of the crossover on Friday. We may revisit actually some trades, see how players are doing some trade deadline. But continue checking us out for all your NBA and NFL content, and also college football and college basketball. I've been David Huffman right there. This is TJ Hopkins. TJ, what we do here at the Prime, my friends?
We bring the heat. And man, hey, I was up till about 2:30. I was up to about 2:30 this morning, and I wasn't really doing shit. Like I had turned my TV off, but I was still messing around on my phone.
Mhm.
And I looked out my window because I just see stuff falling. I'm like, yo, is it raining? I thought it was raining like super hard, and it's just snowing its ass. So I'm like,
man, it was 7 degrees on Saturday.
I'm like Mother Nature. I'm like Mother Nature. What's on your mind? I'm just glad the weather was. I'm just glad the weather was good enough for me to like go see the Batman and get home and yeah.
Well, yeah, Mother Nature, yeah, get with it because I'm about had it.
I'm done. I'm so done.
So done. But I'll see you later, man. You have a good night.
You too, brother.
Peace out, guys.